Great. So welcome everyone, in case you're joining just now. Wonderful. Yeah, welcome everyone. I see you're joining in. Welcome to the Tech Talk Insurance Edition. Today's edition, the start of the series. We'll wait a couple more minutes until everybody had a chance to join. So please make yourselves comfortable. Grab another glass of your favorite beverage, and we are getting ready in the background for you. We have a pretty exciting roster of speakers lined up. Really excited about this night. And they are already waiting there. I already see them getting ready. So get comfortable. And maybe you're already those, I think, who might not have used the Zoom setup. Maybe you can make yourself familiar a little bit with the setup. So there will be a chat box where you can type your questions today, as well as a little feature where you can raise the hand. So please, if you have any questions or remarks, please don't hesitate to contact us, as well as, of course, the questions on the presentations and for the panel speakers. So let's wait for a couple more minutes until everybody had a chance to participate and to join. So, yeah, I already see there is a raised hand. I think that was just a test, right? Otherwise, please give me a shout. Yeah, everybody can maybe raise their hand if you want. Hi, Tom. Great to hear from you. Tom Brattam with Deftorium. Glad that you could join us. Thanks for being here. Really awesome. And I see it's getting fuller. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'll wait for maybe 2 to 3 minutes because it's just 6 o'clock here, 6 o'clock here in Germany. So speaking from Berlin, and we'll wait for a couple more minutes. So please, everyone, get comfortable. So, and I think everybody has used Zoom by now, but yeah, there's the chat box to those who joined late. Please feel free in case of any technical difficulties, or if you have questions, remarks, whatever, please drop us a note there. As we're looking forward to hearing from you. This is your event, so also use the occasion to talk with our panelists. I think we have here some of the best minds here of the insurance business in their fields with us. So use that chance to talk to them. And yeah, we're about to get started. Okay, so maybe we can do a quick audio video check. Maybe you could put a plus in the chat now. If you can hear me well. Is the audio video working? Please give me a quick chat. Ah, wonderful. Thank you. Already see the pluses there. Awesome. Thank you very much. Awesome. Yeah. Great, wonderful. Seems that the tech gods smile upon us tonight, so let's hope that stays that way. And we're about to get started. Maybe 1 more minute so that everybody had the chance to join us tonight, or well, today in the US. So we are a pretty international group this today, from Ukraine, from Germany, from the US, joining tonight. So we're looking forward to that event today. Good. Okay. Great. So I would say let's start. Again, welcome everyone to now the 5th installment of the Tech Talk. And those who joined the first time, so the Tech Talk series is really a platform where industry experts and tech thoughts leaders can come together, discuss, present the most pressing issues in their business, and get and give inspiration to us. I'm really excited that today we can announce the first sub-series, which is called Tech Talk Insurance, which is, well, surprise, delving deeper into the ever-evolving landscape of risk management and insurance. I'm really excited about this the sub-series, which I think couldn't be better chosen in days like these. Today's specific issue will focus on some of the most crucial questions facing modern insurance. So especially now that we edged our way through the social and economic crisis, COVID-19, it's on everybody's mind. And of course, it's also changing the insurance business, or at least challenging the way that insurance business has to deal with it. And this being a tech talk, of course, we are looking a little bit deeper into how technology can help us tackle these issues and change the perspective on that. But we're not only focusing on the crisis, but also on the big mega trends that are shaping the industry today. So I already said it's a sub-series, so that kind of hints already that this will not be the only installment. And let me put a little bit of a plug here. So this will be in monthly installments. The next one will be already on July 16th on regulating innovation, the moving target of InsurTech. And if you want to keep up to date, give us a like, give us a follow on LinkedIn or Facebook, so you will always be up to date about this series. So without further ado, I now want to delve into today's topic, though. Maybe first a couple technical suggestions or reminders. Already said it a couple times. Please use the chat box that you have to ask your questions during the presentations. So we will have 15-minute presentations throughout the evening in the next 2 hours or so. And then after the presentation, we will have a 5-minute Q&A session. So, and in the Q&A session, you can actually also ask questions personally. So it would really be cool if you then raise your hand via the Zoom functionality. Maybe everybody can give it a try, the raise hand function, so that we all know it works. And then I will unmute you and you can ask your questions, discuss something with the panelists. So I think everybody will really profit from that. So it will be exciting if you use that feature. But if you don't want to use it, no problem. Just put your question into the chat and we will read it out after the panel. Okay, let's maybe then give you a quick rundown about today's speakers. Very exciting roster, very international. Layla, Atya, our digital transformation manager, Dr. Bogdan Tanygin, our technical account manager on automotive, Casey Roberts, our very special guest, very proud to have you here tonight, principal and founder of Laurus Insurance Consulting, Aleksandr Stepanenko, our technical account manager here at ELEKS, and last but definitely not least, our dear guest joining us from Switzerland, Thalmann. Really excited to have you with us tonight, Alex. And as I said, we will have a rundown of talks, 50 minutes talks tonight. So I will give you a very quick overview. I hope you won't tune out during the night, but still. So what's coming, we'll first of all have a talk on crisis, microinsurance, and the Taobao success. Then autonomous driving, philosophical changes in insurance and public readiness. Then by Casey Roberts, drones in agriculture and insurance perspective. Really excited for that one. and Aleksandr Stepanenko. Sorry for that. I already found the trap. So Aleksandr Stepanenko will actually come before Casey Roberts. Quick change of plans. Sorry for that, Aleksandr. And then last but not least, Alex Thalmann with Insurance Transformation Process, Key Learnings of a Practitioner. So you see, we have a really exciting lineup of talks tonight. So I don't want to waste any more time. And now I would like for Layla Atya to step up. Layla will dive deeper into the emergence of microinsurance and technologies that embody the Chinese economic success. So Layla is, my dear colleague, Digital and Transformation Manager for ELEKS Insurance Vertical. Many years of experience in the industry, really an expert there on risk management, and has experience ranging from liability, underwriting, to crisis consulting, high hazard areas of the world. Really exciting that you talked to today. So the floor is yours, Layla.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for a wonderful introduction. Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to share some of my knowledge and experience with all of you. Again, a quick disclaimer, I don't think I'll be able to dive deep into anything on microinsurance with Taobao success, but I'll try to talk about, all of these issues and as much as I can within these 15 minutes. So let me share my screen, and without further ado, let's dive into crisis, microinsurance, and Taobao success. I want to actually point and start my talk today with this historical picture when Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, was actually giving a talk to his employees back in 2003 when SARS viruses that are very similar to COVID-19 hit China and global community, when countries were going through a lockdown, and it was crisis somewhat very similar to what we are going through today. And as a result, a month later, the Taobao platform, one of the core platforms of Alibaba, was created that gave birth to the entire digital ecosystem, and as a result is enabling to the economic success in China. But let's step back for a second, and let's first maybe talk a little bit about microinsurance and why I actually wanted to talk about it. So microinsurance is a part of the microfinance, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because microinsurance is essentially a step towards a mature insurance market. It was usually developed for low-income populations, usually those that were living under $4 a day, and it is usually insuring against specific perils in exchange for regular premium and payment. Usually the resources of microinsurance are coming from, licensed insurers like AAG that we know, MetLife is big on microinsurance, Ping An in Chinese insurer, and AXA XL. Also, it can come through finance institutions, and usually microinsurance is sold as an invisible coverage on all microloans, and usually it is covering the life of a person during the time that the loan is given for. So for example, if a loan is issued for a period of 1 year and a person dies during that year, then the insurance is being triggered. And the last sort of resource for microinsurance and microloans in many countries across the globe is community-based organizations. And they actually are extremely popular, especially in the rural areas, because usually community-based organizations that are known to the people, they've established a certain level of trust, and they are able to offer better interest rates to the populations living in those geographic locations. And so here to the right, you see some of the examples of microinsurance. And I want to focus more on funeral burial insurance and credit life insurance. Those two are the most popular in, across the globe, because the lifespan of people who are living in the areas prone to natural disasters or living, under $4 a day is very short. And that's why, standard insurers and started focusing on these lines or on these products first, when they just enter the market with their products. And so overall, the beauty of microinsurance is that it comes with a lot of benefits, because not only, when people are having access to microfinancing and microinsurance, they not only receive money and then they sort of stay alone on their own, but they get access to financial resources to make their life better. They get group support. They are able to accumulate capital and step outside of their current situation. And as a result, it all leads to better educated decisions and educated generations in the future, acquisition of assets, and overall better life choices. So Jack Ma, the reason why I'm talking about Taobao's success and Alibaba is because Jack Ma understood all of that, because he actually came from a very poor family himself. He understood that China, the majority of Chinese population was living in hard to reach places. And if he was able to actually bring them onto his platforms and actually address their needs, he would succeed tremendously. And so that's exactly what he did. So he created an ecosystem of various platforms and services. And the first ones were Alibaba and Taobao marketplace, which was a consumer-to-consumer sales. Essentially, what he did during those SARS in the epidemic in 2003, he sent his employees to the hard-to-reach villages, to the rural populations, and he started educating them about how they can actually address and sell to Chinese market without leaving their hometowns and traveling miles and miles away. And so as a result, those people that had some livestock or produced eggs or some embroidery or furniture, they were able to access larger Chinese markets just by entering that Taobao marketplace. The beauty of that marketplace was as well that Jack Ma did not charge any commission for joining the Taobao marketplace. And that was a great incentive for everybody who wanted to join, because they did not need to pay anything out of pocket right away. What people needed to pay for was ads to move their stores up the line. And so as a result as well, he understood that although merchants were joining the platform, they really didn't have any financial infrastructure. If they wanted to build their store, they needed to accumulate certain amount of items in their houses, or what we usually call warehouses. So they needed to access microloans, and not only that, they needed to be sure in tomorrow, and that's where microinsurance sort of stepped in. And so Jack Ma started at the beginning working with financial institutions to develop the infrastructure and financial infrastructure for the smaller loans. And then as a result, he created Ant Financial, that is another subsidiary of Alibaba that is specializing on microloans. And later on, in recent years, it also is offering, larger, more standard loans to general public. And another piece to the puzzle was that he realized that most of the people that didn't have, laptops. However, nowadays, everybody has, a phone, be it an old phone or a new phone, doesn't matter, especially the millennials. All their lives are happening on their phones. And so he created Alipay. It's essentially an escrow-based payment system where the merchant is receiving the funds only after the buyer receive the items in good condition. And so these three essentially platforms became the basis for Taobao's success. Because while using these three platforms, Jack Ma and his team was able to truly understand their consumers, from how they shop, where they browse, to their credit history, to their payment history, and things of that nature. And that's how the entire system grew. One of the smartest probably decisions that Alibaba actually made was probably invest into technologies internally. Here I prepared a very interesting slide for you to understand how the technology infrastructure developed over the years. And as you see, the Taobao and Financial and Alipay were essentially the basis, together with, of course, other platforms, media platforms, AliCloud, and their affiliates. So essentially, they invested into machine learning algorithms that were trying to predict and understand the behavior of all users across all platforms. And so they started from online machine learning that essentially was focusing on sequential data that was very homogeneous, and we're focusing on predictive modeling, which variables predict, purchasing behavior of their consumers. And then later, because there were different platforms, they've invested in transfer learning, essentially taking the pre-trained models from Taobao and fine-tuning them to other models to test other hypotheses. And as you can see, they are utilizing now deep learning, artificial neural networks, and even reinforcement learning that is mimicking the way human brain learns through experience. And as a result, they've created some of the most mind-blowing technologies that are right now not only managing the traffic flow to major cities in China, but they're also they know all of the users better than the users know themselves. And so a couple of technologies that I want to bring up is, first of all, the Apsara operating system. This is a product of AliCloud, and what they are doing, they're organizing the data centers into computational engines that can process over 175,000 transactions in 1 second. They've also created an e-commerce brain that essentially pulls information across platform and looks for content consumption in real time. What people are browsing for, what are they commenting on, and what words do they have in their comments? What are they bookmarking? And they're tying it into consumer needs and purchasing behavior, taking that information and moving back to the Taobao merchants in the way of with their personalized storefront service, where AI again takes all the information across platforms and personalizes each storefront on Taobao platform according to the interest of the visitors. So for example, if I like sports and somebody else likes politics, whenever you're going to to come to the Taobao platform, you will see the stores filled with products and items that are related to you. That's how they're managing the traffic on the Taobao marketplace. Also, a couple of things like Shadniao, which is the AI that determines faster and more efficient routes. They actually have right now a deal with car manufacturers to make cars more efficient by telling them where to go, pretty much. The Ali Smart supply chain, which definitely is something that the world and in China specifically needs right now during the COVID crisis. It helps. It's essentially an AI-powered platform that helps offline and online merchants to forecast product demand. In the same manner, Amazon does it. However, Chinese, Alibaba Group took it to a very different level. And last but not least, right now, Alibaba is working on technology that is called Brain, that is able to predict voting behavior, and as I mentioned, is able to regulate traffic flow to various megapolises in China. Recently, it predicted the winners of some very popular music shows in China and outside of it. So the point here that I want to make is that, what I've learned and what the world learned is that crisis really makes us more resilient. And not only that, it helps us create new technologies, those that can address, the needs of not only rich people, not only, the first countries, but also countries that are up and coming. And microinsurance, if you look at the map right now that I'm on the screen, as I mentioned, is a sign. It's a transition product that is pointing on the development on social economic situation of of a certain region or country. And as you can see, it became extremely popular in the past couple of years, and it spread from China to India. Right now, the government of Ethiopia is actually asking Taobao and Alibaba to come and to sort of help them eradicate poverty through their platform, through online engagement of their people. Africa is on the way, and South America. And so today, the reason why I decided to talk about the microinsurance, microfinance, and Taobao is I wanted to inspire everybody that, in times of crisis, we can find solutions, and we are extremely creative, creatures on this planet. And I'm sure that, neither COVID nor any other natural disaster will be able to, destroy our creativity. And the question here to all of you probably is that, how are you going to shape the world in a post-COVID future? Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you, Layla, for that great presentation, great insight into Taobao and microinsurance, microfinance. Yeah, do we have any questions? And again, so please use the chat, or actually you can raise your hand with a button underneath, and then I will unmute you and you can raise your question. So raise your hand or put it in the chat. We'll be delighted to answer those. While everybody is warming up the questions, Layla, so you've mentioned Taobao, of course. I mean, that is really exciting example, and also went into the community-based organizations as a source of microfinance and microinsurance. The map, however, was a little bit focused on the developing countries, if I got it correctly. So is it only for developing countries, or are there also examples, for example, in the United States for that?
Actually, it's a great question. It's interesting because when I was preparing for this presentation, I'm starting to meet a lot of people that had delivery services, and I found out about this story. So the delivery company, very small delivery company in Pennsylvania that was traditionally working with Amish community here in the United States, that was, delivering their natural products to the markets. They sort of established that trust. And as a result of COVID, there were, a lot of things that happened. I mean, no trust in financial institutions or anything else. And plus, it's very difficult to establish that trust within Amish community. And so what happened was that I found out that, first of all, the delivery company right now got very busy and they managed to acquire assets. But not only that, the Amish community used them as a community-based organization to take these microloans. And they're taking microloans not from their Amish, company, but essentially this delivery organization, a delivery company, food delivery company, became their source of microfinance, and and obviously they are adding some sort of percentage to ensure their loans, on the long run. So that is one of the examples. I do know that there are a lot of organizations here in the U.S. that work with villages in the Appalachian area, and and just further sort of Midland United States. So there, and I'm sure it's easy to find, but it's not only for developing countries. Everybody, especially during crisis, can use community-based organizations to thrive.
Yeah. Thank you, Layla. Thank you. There are two questions. One question is a short one, but I'll answer it first. So Abhishek asked, is it possible to get a copy of the presentation towards the end of the webinar? And the answer is yes. So we will share all the material towards the end of the webinar. We'll also share a recording, so everything will be distributed to you after the webinar. Thank you for that question. Forgot to mention that. Okay, but now to the next question from Claudia. So Layla, Alibaba could do a lot of tracking, maybe related to the lack of privacy law in China, arguably. Yeah, we know of course that. And the question is a little bit, so how would you transfer that to the US-based tech companies? Can they also use the concept to innovate there where the privacy law is much more important and might also be a hindering factor for commercial actions. How do you see that?
It's a great question. Well, I mean, I would say the short answer is yes. Companies are doing that regardless. And, and with regards to privacy law, whenever you're downloading any application, or whenever you're choosing to use any website, or whenever you're just browsing, you're always clicking yes, and you're giving permissions to, to upload the cookies to your computer, or you're giving permission to share your information. I mean, just remember the Facebook, issue a couple of years ago. And so companies in the US, there are very innovative companies in the United States, like, Google is doing that. They have a great ecosystem, and obviously they are using and trying to understand, how all of us think and, and whatnot. Amazon is leading the AI, technologies here in the United States. And I do think that, the reason why in China it became so successful is because government actually saw, at the beginning, Jack Ma, for example, and Alibaba, they were not cooperating with the government. They were actually against cooperation with the government. However, government saw the Taobao platform as the way to eliminate poverty in those hard-to-reach population, and that's where money and funds started flowing into the Alibaba group, and that's how they were able to sort of capitalize on that idea. So I think that, it is applicable to the United States. It just here it's done more on a, private side, and I don't see, and obviously if government sort of steps in, then we would be concerned. So it's there are some limitations and there are some concerns, but technologies and ever evolving, and right now they actually just recently, I've seen a lot of patents for quantum AI and for AI blockchain technology. So it's there, it's here, and right now all of these platforms, they know about us more than we know about ourselves.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Layla, and thank you, Claudia, for asking the question.
Thank you.
Really good question. I think we have time for like one more question. So you've mentioned like the smart assistants and chatbots as one of the factors of Alibaba's success. So how do you see that for small companies? Do you think that the chatbots are an area where companies should invest, or maybe should they invest somewhere else? What would be your advice?
So it's a great question. Thank you. I think so. A couple of things. I see a lot of companies that are, that are contacting me, and they're like, "Oh, we've heard about this blockchain or AI or whatever. We want all of it. We want to, take all of our money and invest into chatbots because that's, the buzzword of tomorrow." And I do not think that this is a, and a wonderful pill for everybody to solve all the issues. Of course, it makes life easier, and actually, Taobao address they have a chatbot that is personalized, and all the merchants on that platform, they can personalize their own customer experience. So it would be great if we had something like that for for those smaller businesses. But right now, I think that each business is so individual, and before creating and investing money into one-off product, it is very important to understand the strategy and how are you going to use it, and how are you going to address the needs of your customers, and why would they come and use your one product when there are millions on the market. So the question is really great, and unfortunately I can't give a clear sort of answer to that because it all depends on each case, but I do think that innovation is something that everybody needs to think about, and there are countries and companies that thought about it before COVID hit all of us, and they are leading the digital innovation. So I'm not sure if I answered the question, and I apologize if I didn't, but that is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Layla. Thank you again for the presentation. We have more questions coming in. Unfortunately, I would now like to give the next speaker some time to speak, but there will be discussion at the end, so we will take care of your question. And Layla, I will ask you to maybe answer them after in the Q&A session, in the panelist discussion at the end.
Thank you.
Great. So now I would like to come to the next speaker. Next joining us will be Dr. Bogdan Tanygin, our technical account manager here. So Dr. Bogdan Tanygin, you already see he has a PhD in physics, but has many years of experience in the IT industry, working for companies in the US, in France, in Germany. And right now, his specialty is actually the autonomous driving. And I'm really excited to today have him here to discuss autonomous driving and, of course, its impact or its relations to the insurance business and what new paradigms it might bring there. Bogdan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Andreas, thank you so much for this intro. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the attending to our tech talk. Really exciting to see so many insurance technology enthusiasts. So the subject of my speech, rather an intro to this new emerging topic, is the autonomous driving and philosophical changes in insurance related to it and public readiness around this topic. Let's start from a few words about where we are with autonomous driving and which kind of this technology innovation exists. Level 1 of autonomous driving by well-established classification, it's a very basic support of the driver. It's ABS, cruise control, other functions. It actually is not real autonomous driving, rather advanced driver assistance systems. Real autonomous driving starts from the level 2. It can be, in simple words, explain it like a hands-off possibility. It means that you can remove your hands from the steering wheel, you should relax your legs, but you still should be fully focused on the road. You should be concentrated on the situation and what is going on. And if it needed, you should take over the full control and quickly resolve the situation. The level 3 is the next level. It means, again, in simple words, it's we can call it eyes off, which means that a driver is not mandatory to look to the road all the time, and of course not needed to use his hands on the steering wheel, and the car do a lot of automatic functions in the lanes and in the distance between cars and the obstacles avoidance. However, driver should be still available to take over the control when the system will request it, and it should be done very quickly. The level 4, this is a highly autonomous driving. It's using the similar terminology, we can call it minds off, which means that in certain roads, in certain environments which are already designed for the autonomous driving, driver interaction is not needed at all. Car will operate by itself. And level 5 is similar, but it means that there is no need in specific infrastructure, specific roads, but it will be possible in all possible situations, and including all non-standard situations and key circumstances which are possible in the real life. It's called full automation or fully autonomous driving. How it works under the hood? Naturally, it starts from the sense. It's a gathering of all possible information from the sensors. It's a radar, it's a LiDAR, it's a camera, ultrasonic sensors, and other. The next crucial step is interpreting of this data and sensor fusion, matching of with different sensor information together, understanding this data. The next step is a choice of a most safe course of actions, depending of the road situation. And the final, it's a real actuation using the car controls of the driving functions. Here, on each of these steps, on some of the steps, a classical approach of with electronic control units and with algorithms in written software is possible. However, in most of these steps, regular software engineering does not fit. We must have artificial intelligence capabilities. For instance, this interpreting step when we need to recognize the similar way as human being recognize surrounding, for instance, from the image, computer vision, point cloud, etc. And most hard part of machine learning models are related to the decisions, most safe decisions for the control. Here the biggest artificial intelligence piece works. And speaking about artificial intelligence, let's imagine such situation as you see on this slide. And let's imagine that there is not enough time to stop the car. So braking system, even in emergency mode, will not stop. And somebody should make a decision where we should hit. We can either hit the wall, we can drive towards the roadworks area, or we can drive towards people. In each case, there can be like a fatal or very serious incident. And here is an ethical dilemma. This decision can be made by artificial intelligence, or this decision can be made by us, by drivers. And I would like to ask attendees, let's make a simple voting. If you is okay to delegate this decision to artificial intelligence, then please write 1 into the chat to everybody. If you would like to make this decision by your own, then please write 2. Okay. It's interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Interesting. Yeah, okay, let's discuss all this voting in the common Q&A session in the end. So you will still have some time to think about and to vote. Again, it's 1 for artificial intelligence decision and 2 for yours decision. Thank you. If car incidents are possible in this autonomous driving world, then the liability topic arises. Different options are here. Of course, as today, driver can be liable for consequences, or car owner can be liable, especially if it's car sharing case, if it's highly autonomous driving. The car manufacturer can be responsible. Another option is the producer of the car parts, which are responsible for the autonomous driving function. So it's elements. It's called here tier 1. Another option is mobile network operator. It can sound a little bit strange, but it's crucial because vehicle-to-vehicle, vehicle-to-infrastructure and connectivity capabilities are considered like a final failover, like a backup option in case of a sensor system will fail. And of course, it's important in non-standard situation as well. Another option is that simply as the safety certification can fail because there is a serious problem of safety certification of the artificial intelligence. Neural networks, they like not similar to the regular classical deterministic software algorithms, and neural network is much more complex to certify and to understand what does it mean even. And the last option, it's a joke, but for maybe in several decades it will be not a joke. It's artificial general intelligence, which maybe will have certain civil rights as we have today with Sophia in special countries. Okay, these are concrete insurance policies which are related to the described autonomous driving landscape. First of all, it's important to mention the technology errors and omission policy, which naturally can cover like not perfect autonomous driving level software and hardware design. So all the design issues, it's very important for tier 1 and for the car manufacturers, as well as for mobile operators for the 5G failover features. Cyber liability becomes more crucial for cars than before, because now we have software-based controls of all almost all car functions. So hacker attack will be able to fully take over control of the car. In this case, cyber liability policy can be interested, of course, for mobile operator, for the car manufacturer or tier ones, as well as for car owner in case of car sharing, because for car sharing, it's common to have keyless access and mobile device-based access to the car to unlock the doors, etc. And it's like an open already interface for the possible threats from the internet. Another important policy here is directors and officers, because decisions for the investments into a certain level of autonomous driving is still made very carefully, because it's unknown technology. Nobody achieved it fully, and when it will come to our lives, nobody knows. And of course, it's important to mention regular auto liability as well as physical damage coverage policies, which classically is related to the driver or car owner. However, now in the level 4 and higher, level 5 as well, autonomous driving, it's absolutely possible that it will be applied to the car manufacturers, because if the car can drive without driver, how the driver can be responsible for the consequences of the car incidents. As you see, it's something new and unusual, and with moving forward with this, we should take into account different constraints. For instance, already exists for the functional safety standards ISO 26262. As I already mentioned, the certification issues with AI should be addressed maybe on the regulatory level. Another important, especially for V2X, for vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to vehicle, it's important that all cars simultaneously should be transited past transition to certain level of autonomous driving, because it will be much more safer if they will, all of them will be able to connect with each other, and there will be not unknown objects on the road. It's also required certain attention from the regulator. As you see, the overall liability relations are very complex and technical, much more than other cases, and overall complication increases and require more thorough business process and technical analysis. Especially the last constraints, which here are highlighted specifically, the technology errors and emission policy is very important now for the car manufacturers, starting from level 4 autonomous driving, because software defects can be detected or reproduced only in real situation and only in certain conditions. I don't know, during the winter in Australia, something like this. And it's not possible to test all possible environment, situation, etc. In real life, you will always have some surprises. And the issue is that if almost all cars will be autonomous, and I just said that it's a broad transition is important, that there is a chance that we'll have kind of push that all cars should have these features. However, in this case, this non-standard environment with certain defect in the software can lead to simultaneous detection of these defects in massive scale, which means that in several days it can be a great number of car incidents related to autonomous driving simultaneously. This is why estimation of this probability is quite complex, and the technology errors and emission policy should include these calculations. Due to all these irregular circumstances, we already see that car manufacturers, they found new insurance companies as their subsidiaries and provides self-insurance. Is taking into account everything under the hood, what they know about the technology. And still, after transition to more higher stages, because for today it's level 2 plus on level, sometimes maybe some kind of level 3 autonomous driving, but level 4 still is science fiction. And this is why reinsurance can be of different financial institutions, because as I said, the number of car incidents and this shift of small car incident responsibility from the driver to the car manufacturers in the global scale, it's something new and something really heavy to take. And they are not ready. Most of car manufacturers, they are not accepting responsibility for such cases still. This is why it's important to discuss this and discuss a public opinion and prepare a society for this. For instance, trust to artificial intelligence decision. We can compare it with the trust to unknown, because for every day, or at least every week, many people use the taxi service or Uber, other taxi services, and if you do it, you do not check the driving license of the driver. You do not check if the driver must wear glasses or is not a little bit drunk. You just trust the driver because he's a human being, or he or she is a human being. And you put your life under the serious risk, because the car incident risk of death is quite high. However, in case of artificial intelligence, probability can be even less, but it's psychologically hard to accept to trust the machine without control of the people. This is why it's important as a next step to start all the series of discussion of technology and insurance experts to elaborate new paradigms, at least to explain to society who will be liable for the car incident in the future, and how to live with the autonomous cars in their life. And on the other hand, this very complex digital ecosystem and over complex technological landscape of the insurance, it will require complex scoring, calculation, and all the business processes analysis. And for this, new software technologies in the insurance industries are crucial. And both of these topics, like working of the society and working with technology experts in the insurance industry, we would like to urge everybody to join this discussion, especially in our next tech talks on the panel format. And this my presentation is rather an introduction to this new world. Thank you so much. We'll be glad to address questions.
Yeah, thank you, Bogdan, for the exciting presentation of this topic. I think was a great insight, and it's always fun to dive deeper into how the world will look like when these vehicles finally populate the streets here. So I'm sure there are a couple questions. So again, if you have some questions you would like to answer online, basically in person, use the raise hand functionality, and I will give you access, open the mic for you, and you can ask Bogdan the question in person, or of course, use the chat function, the Q&A function, to shoot us a question. Oh, and we have, do we have, yes. So let me get York Agroponti. York, you should be able to talk now. York, please speak up.
Hello.
Ask the question. Hello.
Hello. Yes, a very interesting conference. I want to know if we want to develop not autonomous car, but autonomous robots, what implications could have in security and safety for people in the street. Suppose you have to limit the way that the people behave, like in United States, in the crisis that they have there. What could be the way to make it work in insurance?
Thank you. That's an interesting question. Could you please clarify what kind of robots? Is it some delivery or what?
I think what is the possible that a robot make a damage to a people? Maybe kill someone. I don't know if you work with that technologies.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question, because even so, car incidents is a more serious problem, because it's a serious risk for our lives before or after autonomous driving. But the automotive industry is more simple to transfer to this autonomous vehicles, because it's the driving rules and the road infrastructure and all the organization of driving is quite similar in everywhere in the world, and to make the same approach is also possible to do. But with another types of roads, and is it a delivery drones which can come to your apartment, and with the flying drones which you can hit your window and make a fire issue, etc. It's much more complex, and it will depend on regulations in each and every country, and it required certain standardization, and it should indeed it require even more complex discussion. But autonomous driving is a good start, because it's, as I said, it's very standard everywhere.
Great. Thank you, Jörg, for asking that question. Thank you, Bogdan. Maybe I can ask a question. So, I mean, I think the question we are all asking in the back of our head, so how will the car insurance business change in the upcoming years due to this, to the abundance of self-driving cars? And I mean, one specific question that I had in the back of the head, do you think it will maybe also differentiate a bit more, like now, for example, I think you touched on that. I mean, one of the autonomous driving cars will probably be more like carpooling, you know, where they drive through the city, pick up people, drop off people, more like a autonomous taxi. Some of them will be privately operated. So do you think that will have an impact on how the insurance market will develop?
Yeah, it's a great question. Especially it's for the case of liability of car owner in case of car leasing or car sharing more. Because in this case, everybody predicts that transition to level 4 autonomous driving will happen first, because such carpooling will be organized in special lanes and in special environment. And it's easier to, in certain, for instance, in some cities, to start it in isolated way compared to all the other country. And this is just several lanes will be used for this. And I think in this case, it's much more simpler, and still insurance environment is not ready for this. And still, I think that I can be wrong, but I think that in next decade, we will still have self-insurance for the autonomous car manufacturers for such cases, and some level of responsibility will be also on the drivers which we sit inside, because we will not have real level 4, it will be kind of level 3, and it will be anyway the driver will be urged to save the day in case of the risk of car incident. However, after the next decade, maybe 15 years, it will be already the transition to this moving of liability to the autonomous car manufacturers, regardless of situation. Is it car sharing or is it personal car? Anyway, people will be not more responsible for the car incidents after a couple of decades.
Interesting. Thank you, Bogdan, for asking that. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions right now, but please don't hesitate to ask more, because after the series, after the presentation, we will have a panel discussion and more opportunity to ask questions. So now I would like to move on to the next presentation, and it will be by my dear colleague, Aleksandr Stepanenko. Aleksandr is a veteran of the IT industry with more than 20 years of experience, has worked a lot in smart grids, actually, for energy and utilities, focused on distributed networks, blockchain, IoT, all the hot topics that we have out there right now. And today I'm really excited to have him here to present on drones, and especially in agriculture. So really excited for that presentation. Aleksandr, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andreas. Thanks for everyone who attended our Tech Talk today. And let me share my screen. So let's discuss what drones can do for agriculture and agri-insurance. Oh, there is a small technical issue. I'm sharing right now. Let me stop on our today's agenda very briefly. Because of the time limit we have, very briefly we'll touch the main farmers and insurers challenges which drones can help with. Then we'll take a quick look at the technical options available on the market, from the most affordable to the most expensive, and make a drone types overview from the technical design perspective. So which typical tasks in farming drones can solve? First of all, it's soil and field analysis. Drones can be useful at the start of the crop cycle. They produce precise 3D maps for early soil analysis, useful in planning seed planting patterns. You'll be able to see if there are any issues with the soil quality, with nutrient management, or soil dead zones. And after planting, drone-driven soil analysis provides data for irrigation and nitrogen level management. Planting. There are some cases of using drones for seed planting. These systems shoot pods with seeds and all required nutrients into the soil. Commercially available drones have limited payload, usually around 50-55 pounds, and typically used for either trees planting or maybe for spot replanting of damaged crop. And crop spraying and spot spraying. Vehicles are slow and sometimes have limited access to the spots. Airplanes are costly and inaccurate, and spot spraying of crops used to be incredibly difficult. If you had an issue with weeds or a certain crop, the entire acreage would have to be sprayed. With approval from the Federal Aviation Administration, drones can be equipped with large reservoirs, which can be filled with fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, and using drones for crop spraying is much safer and cost-effective. Drones can even be operated completely autonomously and programmed to run on specific schedules and roads. So with spot spraying afforded by drones, this same task can be accomplished in less time, less money, and at reduced environmental cost. Crop mapping and surveying. One of the biggest advantages of using drone technology is the ease and effectiveness of large-scale crop and acreage monitoring. Satellites and plane imagery are expensive, lacking precision, and usually cannot be scheduled for regular use. With drones, you can not only obtain real-time footage, but also time-based animation, which can eliminate crop progression in real time. So instead of using some empirical guess, make your decisions based on the real-time data. And you're able to collect plenty of information like overall crop and plant health, land distribution based on crop type, current crop life cycle, detailed GPS images, detailed GPS maps of current crop area. And you can also not only use standard RGB cameras, but also near-infrared, thermal, multispectral, and interpret those data to maximize land and resource usage and help farmers to better determine crop planting locations. Then irrigation monitoring. Drones that are equipped with thermal cameras can help to spot irrigation issues or areas that are receiving too little or excessive moisture. And the last but not least, real-time livestock monitoring. Drones, again equipped with thermal imaging cameras, can also be used to quickly check in on herd and to see if there are any injured or missing livestock, see livestock who are given birth, and monitor if there are any predators around. Now, regarding the agri-insurance. So typically it includes two phases. It's a pre-claim phase which affects insurance premium amount and other expenses, and post-claim, which actually affects payouts. During the pre-claim, we can use drones for increasing price and accuracy and risk reduction. So assessing aside from the sky allows for a more accurate risk profile, which in turn impacts the costs involved. Then monitor natural disasters. Drones can also be deployed to safely and quickly monitor areas under threat from natural disasters such as fire, floods, earthquakes, whatever, and prevent the claim rather than pay for it. If something happened, then using drones, we can provide a site inspection. Using drones offer a faster and safer and more cost-effective way to undertake site inspections and measure damaged areas, especially if doing so from ground compromises the safety of the inspection team. Claims decisions. The decisions-making process is made a great deal easier thanks to precise and high-quality imagery, which is also a more unbiased way because both adjuster and farmer operate the same comprehensive data. And of course, fraud prevention. Fraudulent claims amount to 30 or 32 billion each year. So drones can help counter these claims by capturing accurate information in a timely manner. Now the question is, do we need to pay a few dozens, hundreds for an expensive professional drone, or may choose a consumer drone for the fraction of that price? And to answer this question, let's start moving from the less expensive options and think what it can offer for the buck. So on the low end side, we have consumer drones, which are completely usable for manual visual monitoring or for automatic monitoring using waypoints, which you can set and schedule this drone to run automatically. It has a flight range of 30 to 40 minutes, which means 15 to 20 miles of distance. The communication range is obviously less. It's only 5 to 5.5 miles. But the main disadvantage, they're not weather sealed. Usually they can withstand wet conditions, but even after flying in a rain shower, they'll stay working with a high probability. Though, of course, under the heavy rain, it's better to extract the drone from emission as soon as possible. And this means that out of the box, you can use drone in manual, as I said, mode or automatic mode just for visual surveying and monitoring. By adding some specialized software for crop mapping or vegetation index monitoring, you can expand the usability of your drone. You can import your videos into third-party software and get the high-res 3D terrain models, measure the vegetation index. Of course, it's not that accurate as using near-infrared cameras, but it's still possible. But you can also buy a semi-pro version of the same consumer drone, or just upgrade the camera to the specialized camera like near-infrared or thermal or even multispectral, and it will add you ability to measure accurate vegetation index, which is really important for the determining of crop health. You can use it for livestock monitoring. You can use it for irrigation monitoring, and it's already plenty of useful applications, and you still use quite a cheap drone available on the market without any custom modifications to either hardware or software part. On the opposite side of the scale, there are professional drones. It's a specialized drones which usually also include a specialized software which allow finer control over the drone, more flexibility in flights planning and special processing. They may include multiple additional sensors, be able to carry heavy payloads, and be equipped with a specialized tool for probing, planting, or spraying. Best of them support easy tool replacement and reconfiguring of the drone for a specific task. Any additional tools, of course, come at separate price, and the final cost can rocket up easily. But the main advantage of these drones is that they are more robust. They weather sealed and can better withstand any difficult weather conditions. Usually they're more reliable in terms of battery life, and for instance, they can be serviced with ease because of modular construction. A good alternative to the pro-grade drones is custom-built drones, which may start from 3,000 to 5,000, but upper price is limited by your imagination. Only this option is the most flexible because you can deploy your own custom firmware tailored for your very needs. You can make the drone to fly autonomously to patrol your field and scanning for any issues, then swoop down and fly around any suspicious spot, even if it needs to navigate through the trees and other obstacles. And you can make any real-time integration you may need and easily integrate it to your existing infrastructure. But it's a whole bunch of work, and such a project can cost you a lot. And in such a case, the major part of the expenses will be not a hardware, but a software development. So you need to be careful in determining your actual needs. And first, always try to find the off-the-shelf solution, and only if there is no available, start thinking about making your custom one. But once being developed, the solution can be replicated multiple times without additional expenses. So it makes sense if you're going to scale up in the future and want to save some money comparing to buying the professional drones or get more flexibility. Now, a few words about types of drones available on the market. Probably the most known, which all of us can see around, are copters. The most common are quadcopters or hectocopters and octocopters, which fly like a helicopter using horizontally spinning rotary motors. But there are also fixed wing drones, which looks like and fly mostly like a regular plane. I didn't put the picture. Everyone knows how a regular aircraft looks like. So advantages and disadvantages. Fixed wing drones have their advantages with approximately the same size and weight. They propose either better flight range or a higher payload, typically 2 times higher, 2 times better, which means they can either cover a larger area or carry more hardware. And this works great for many tasks, for crop mapping and vegetation index measurement for the 2D crops, and overall surveying, or maybe even crop spraying due to the higher payload. But on the other hand, it can't hover on the spot to do some precision work. Of course, it's not a large manned aircraft which flies, for instance, if we take spraying, the large manned aircraft can fly high and spray your field and field of your neighbor and some towns around there. The fixed wing drones are much smaller and can be used with more precision, but a copter can be even more precise. And though it can carry less liquid, but it can use it much more efficiently. A fixed wing drone can fly between the trees to estimate their status. It can plant seeds because that require much lower speed and better precision. And it doesn't allow to stop and take a closer look to some land spot for visual assessment of the damaged area, for instance. And the most important, it requires a special infrastructure to take off and land. So between those two, copter is a bit more versatile. Indeed, there are one more type of vertical takeoff and landing drones, which combines advantages of both. There are drones which can take off and land vertically and fly like a fixed wing aircraft all other time. So there are 2 types of them, tail-seaters and quad planes. Tail-seaters look almost like a regular plane, but takes off and lands in a vertical position, tail down, that's why the name. Then it turns into horizontal position and flies in normal plane. It looks like it's really good combination of fixed wing and copter, and it is. But honestly, this type of aircraft isn't as stable when hovering as a copter, and there is a certain difficulties with the mounting of the hardware. So it has certain trade-offs, but it's a good technical solution, though there is not many of the shelf solutions to choose from on the market. Quad planes use additional rotors for the vertical takeoff and landing, or use tilting ones. So in theory, they have all the advantages of both fixed wing and copters, but they're more technically complex than either fixed wing or copters, thus less reliable, heavy and bulky. And honestly, there is even less propositions on the market than for tail-seaters. Well, and maybe my final thoughts. Of course, someone may say that all the problems mentioned are exaggerated, as well as the effectiveness of the solution that drones propose. It is true, at some extent, drones aren't a silver bullet, and it's still an evolving technology, but everything is moving towards robotics and automation. So if you start integrating it into your process now, then we'll have a huge competitive advantage in a few years. And I believe investments into technologies are always a good thing, if you only understand, of course, which of your business problems the technology solves. And in my presentation, I mostly touched the technical part of this topic, because ELEKS is a company who has experience in building custom drones for the large commercial aircraft assessments. But our next speaker, Casey Roberts, will perfectly complement the same area by giving an overlook from the insurance professional standpoint, I believe. So that's it from my side. Thank you. I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you, Aleksandr, for that great technical preparation now. I think that is a great basis to build upon in the next talk. We have, I think, time for one question, maximum two, because we're a little bit behind time. So if there are any questions from the audience, please again raise your hand so that we can have your question live here. So I'll wait a couple of seconds to see. So maybe one question in between from my side. So I mean, Aleksandr, you gave a great overview of the prices, etc. And my heart is really beating when I see these gadgets. But so what would you say? I mean, is it always necessary to own one, or is it better to rent one? What is the market? What is the ecosystem out there, and where do you see it's moving in the future?
Yeah, of course, there is a demand and there is a position of the market. There is a even freelance platform which allow you to hire a drone pilot with a hardware and experience in certain domain area. And there are some specialized companies who work in specific domain area, for instance, in insurance, in property insurance, or in construction works. And indeed, it's a good idea before you start thinking of building your own fleet to try this as a service. And there are maybe half a dozen of companies who can propose these as a service for the agricultural domain. And before starting building your own fleet, you definitely need to try all of them, to talk to those guys and see which benefits they actually can propose. On the downside, they won't propose you something specific which you need. And of course, on large scale, if you're going to use this technology regularly, it will be cheaper for you to start building your own hardware, your own fleet. Otherwise, if it's only for occasional use from time to time, you can easily go with the outsourcing these to the specialized companies who are doing this for everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, Aleksandr. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have right now for the question, but don't hold back your questions. Just post them into the chat and we will have the opportunity to answer them later and discuss it actually on the panel after this, the talks. For now, thank you, Aleksandr. And we'll move over to the next presentation now. And we left the best, of course, to the last two presentations. So I'm very proud now to announce Casey Roberts from Laurus Insurance Consulting. Casey has a whopping 43 years of experience in the industry, 10 of them actually as owner of his own insurance consulting practice. He has a huge experience as agent, as broker, insurance trainer, and of course also as a coveted speaker. So I'm especially happy now that Casey could join us tonight. Casey, we look forward to your presentation.
Andreas, thank you. And thank all of you for joining us today. We're going to take a very high-level look at some insurance concerns from the standpoint of the use of drones in agriculture, especially either when they're used by the farmer or they can be used by a third-party contractor, as Alex was just speaking about, right? And we see both opportunities being taken and being used by today's agricultural professionals. Now, the other thing we're going to take a look at are some of the potential insurance complications. So regardless of the party that is using the drone, whether it's the farmer who owns the drone and uses it, or if the farmer has gone to a third-party provider to provide the services to the farmer, we're still going to have some insurance concerns that need to be addressed. And if those aren't done appropriately or properly, as I would say, then we're going to have some potential issues. And the one thing we don't like in the insurance world is issues that are not addressed before the loss occurs, right? So, as Alex said, these are some common uses that we see in agriculture. I'm not going to belabor this point because Alex already addressed these, but these are the primary things that we're seeing them used for now. One quick thing about chemical application, especially when it comes to pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, etc. You'll probably see them being more used in the future in smaller properties and in pinpoint applications. They're not going to take the place of the standard crop dusting exposure, but rather they're going to be looked at as a complementary exposure to the crop duster. The crop duster will apply large swaths of application, large swaths of herbicides or fertilizers or seeding process, whereas the drone will be able to do in a more localized, more specific area. And that'll be very advantageous to the farmer, especially the larger operations, because it's hard to get around a multi-acreage or hectare property that we oftentimes see. Now, anytime we start talking about drones, we have some concerns. One of the first questions that we received earlier today was a question about privacy. And I thought that question was exactly for me as well. It was for Layla, but it's the same exact thing when we start looking at the regulatory and legal issues that we have concerns with, not just in the US, but because we're going to be able to have, again, as Alex said, high-powered cameras and infrared sensors. We could even utilize, and we're seeing some governments starting to look at the use and consider the use of facial recognition technology and license plate readers. Well, when that occurs, privacy becomes the issue. And with privacy comes multifaceted concerns just from the standpoint of the user and the one who gathers that information, as well as the party who's privacy might have been compromised or invaded, if you will. So we look at that in that regard and think, okay, these are some of the things that we've really got to figure out how we're going to manage these. Now, in the US, there have been two Drone Aircraft Privacy and Transparency Acts, one in 2013, and I know that seems like forever ago, that was 7 years ago, but one also in 2017. And both of them addressed some of the same issues, but neither one has passed out of our Congress and been signed by the president. So these are still in the discussion mode, if you will. But because they are in the discussion mode, what these acts looked at addressing were nuisance issues. Is the flying of your drone over my property create a nuisance to me? And if so, might I have the ability to take some legal action against you as the owner or the operator of the drone? What about if it's not a nuisance? Are you trespassing onto my property? Now, that may seem different in different societies, but in the US, that is a major concern. And attached to the trespass is if you have trespassed, then you have probably, in all likelihood, to a degree, invaded my privacy. Well, if you've invaded my privacy, is that an actionable legal action that I can take against you or not? Does it raise to the level of harassment or not? We don't know. All these things have not been addressed yet by our legal system, but we know that these are significant legal and regulatory concerns. Finally, data collection and inadvertent eavesdropping. I'm flying over my property, but oh, something going on your property. I think I'll go take a look. Oh my goodness, what can of worms, as we would say, have we now opened? So we look at these concerns, and these are the ones that are not quite frankly, we've yet to address these in a very satisfactory situation. From a loss exposure standpoint, okay, I own a drone or I'm operating a drone. Now, what are my loss concerns? Well, I could have my drone, my UAS, right, collide with the ground, damage my drone. Well, as we saw from Alex's presentation, that might be a few $1,000s, but it's probably not going to bankrupt me. But if I'm flying near where other planes are flying, think commercial aircraft especially, we could have a significant problem. Obviously, that should go without being said, right? Injury to passengers of manned aircraft due to interference by the drone. These are concerns that we see, and we've seen a number of exposures in Newark. We saw it over in Gatwick and other international locations where drones were interfering with the operation of commercial aircraft. This is a huge issue and probably will not be something addressed from an insurance standpoint, but is definitely a significant loss exposure. What if the drone hits someone? All right, just does damage to an individual on the ground? That's a concern. Or damages your own property, right? Or damage to property on which the operations are actually being performed. These are some concerns. The major concerns, again, though, despite all these loss exposures that we're looking at, are quite frankly the privacy issues. Now, most insurance companies, and I can never say all, I don't want to say all, but many insurance companies do not provide coverage for the operations of drones on a policy that has not been endorsed for coverage. Many homeowners policies will provide coverage to the drone owner and operator, but only if they are considered a hobbyist, right? And there's some actual language in the policy. I'm not going to make you insurance experts today on policy language. That'd bore the heck out of you, and I don't want to do that. But suffice it to say that when one owns a drone, if you're owning it and using it only as a hobby, you would have to check with your homeowner's insurer to see if you have coverage both for the drone and or for the actual liability exposures that you would be subject to, right? That is the very limited coverage that you may be able to get. Now, a farmer using a drone to look at their crops and to see the progress of their crops is not considered a hobbyist use, but is considered a commercial use. And as such, is subject to the rules and regulations and the laws of the Federal Aviation Administration. So that is another situation that we have to look at. Some of those insurance companies that will actually provide coverage for a bodily injury loss will not necessarily provide coverage for what we call personal injury. Now, I have to get down into the weeds of insurance language here for a minute. In the world of insurance, on the liability side of things, personal injury does not include my hurting your body. Personal injury is those things, as you see on the graphic in front of you, things of the nature of trespass or nuisance or invasion of privacy. So I may be able to have from the insurance company that I am insuring the farmer for, the agricultural operator for, I may be able to endorse their policy with that particular insurance company and provide them with some coverage should the drone do injury to someone else's body. But I very likely will not be able to get them coverage for the personal injury exposures of trespass, nuisance, and invasion of privacy. Now, in the States, we have two primary advisory companies that write the types of insurance coverage forms that most carriers use. That is called the Insurance Services Office. You will often hear them referred to as ISO, and the American Association of Insurance Services, referred to as AAIS. Now, there are other providers of insurance. These are folks who just write coverage forms, and then they are adapted under licensing procedures in the insurance world. So in that respect, those two primary writers of coverage really dominate the landscape of insurance. And primarily, again, they have the ability to provide personal injury coverage, but because the exposure for personal injury is considered too unknown and too immeasurable at this time, most carriers will not write the personal injury coverage. When we insure a drone, right? When we insure a drone, the actual drone itself, I can do under either an aviation hull coverage or under a commercial property via an inland marine policy. That's for the actual drone itself, right? I can get aviation liability coverage for the operation of the drone that will provide coverage for bodily injury or property damage that the drone might do. But again, often that will not include that personal injury. I can get a special drone policy, right? That will provide for some products and legal liability and products liability and physical damage. Or I can even buy on-demand drone coverage, right? Where I can use my phone, right? Pick it up, turn on the app, start it up, be billed automatically for the length of time that I'm going to be operating my drone, and then I can shut off the insurance when I'm done using it. There are many options in that regard from the standpoint of insuring drones in the US. The challenges that we see are this, right? Again, aircraft aviation, this is normally where we find coverage for the hull or the liability exposures. But oftentimes that will not include the personal injury exposures, types of losses that could be subject to my owner or operator. We have concerns with data breach and cyber as well. Normally drones are excluded under property coverage, so I would have to endorse it for that. Other concerns is, well, what if my employees are injured by the drone? How will the workers' compensation policy respond? And then finally, is the drone considered covered equipment if it breaks down? And would my equipment breakdown coverage form provide coverage? So that's our high-level discussion, if you will, of things that we see are the concerns when using drones. We know they are going to be used to a greater extent in agriculture than they are today. We know they're going to be used by the farmer, or they're going to be used by the farmer under a third-party contract with another party. And when we look at these insurance complications, we just have to want to make certain that we address these potential exposures to loss so that our farmer, our agricultural operator, does not have to reach into their own pocket to pay these losses. Guess what? I'm going to give it back to you, Alex. Andreas, my bad. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you for the great presentation, the great insight. Very exciting. And I'm really looking forward now to questions from the audience. Are there any questions? Again, for those who might have joined later, you can raise your question and we'll open the mic for you and you can ask the questions yourself or just post them in the chat or in the Q&A function here in Zoom. And I will be delighted to read them out for Casey. Actually, Casey can also read them himself, but I will read them out for the audience. And maybe while the audience is collecting questions, maybe one question for me. So I really like this cyber insurance thing actually, and I think that not only applies to the drone business, but I guess also to the autonomous driving very similarly, because I mean that is kind of, you see the scenario in hopefully only the science fiction movies where things get hacked, used against people or to cause some damage, maybe even on a massive scale, because that's kind of what happens with these bot networks, right? Where people hack computers or hack routers also on a massive scale. So could you maybe dive into that? I mean, how is that even done, or in the insurance business? How can you measure or price these things that potentially have a huge impact if there's a systematic problem there, exposures in cybersecurity, et cetera?
Oh, Andreas, thanks for the easy question. Ha!
You only get the big ones.
If I could tell insurers how to measure that, I would probably retire. I don't know that we can measure it right now. I just know that the concerns are, from a cyber perspective, that during the upload and download process, during the connectivity process, because of the wireless connectivity, because of the data acquisition and that sort of thing, and the knowledge that most cyber intrusions are not a direct frontal assault on an insured system, but often come in what we call through the side door of the exposure. That the concern is that one could potentially access, or there could be an upload or a download issue wherein a virus could be transferred via the drone. And now we have, once that is traced back to our farmer or the utilizer of that product, we've got a cyber concern. And so that is just part of it. Now, do we know how big this is potentially going to be? No, we don't. But we do know that the use of cyber, the use of drones in ag is nothing but increasing.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. We have one question from Abdul Wali. Thank you. Ahmed from Ahmed. Thank you very much. I'll read it out. What carriers are leading into the drone space, and what are they doing to garner the market space? And he adds two questions. Is it a creative product offering or an add-on coverage? I think that was probably insurance coverage, right? I think that, shall I read it again, or?
Yeah, well, I think part of the question was which carriers are leaning into the space, if you will. Mm-hmm. And primarily what we're seeing in that regard is, for the most part, I'm probably going to have to go to the aviation marketplace to find the coverage I need for the liability and for the physical damage to the actual drone itself. I'm probably going to have to go into the aviation marketplace. And there are a multiple number of providers in that marketplace. On the what we call the standard insurance side, we see very limited offerings by many insurance companies. As an example, I had a fellow send me an endorsement the other day because he said, well, his insurance company would take care of the drones for the farmer. And I was looking at it and it said, it'll take care of it if it weighs less than 20 pounds. And as long as it's only used for aerial imaging, data acquisition, and mapping. Now, that is very, very limited. So to answer the attendee's question, I will probably go more often than not to an aviation provider than I would go to my standard insurance company that is already insuring the farm or the ag. We don't see a lot of companies jumping into that space on the farm and ag side.
Thank you very much, Casey. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Ahmed, for asking the question. I think we are a little bit behind time, so I think that's all the questions we have right now for questions, but don't worry, please keep them coming and we will ask them after the final presentation now. So Casey, thank you very much for now. I will ask you to come on stage after this last talk again to answer the other questions. But for now, I would like to go over to the last, but definitely not least talk of tonight. It will be by Alex Thalmann. Very proud to have you here. Special guest joining now. Alex is an innovation specialist with over 5 years experience in the digital transformation environment. Has graduated from the famous School of Design Thinking and is now working as an innovation strategist, product owner, agile coach, and an entrepreneur. And I'm very proud that tonight he will present on the task of the insurance transformation process, the key learnings of a transitioner. So Alex, thank you very much for joining us tonight. The floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Andreas. Thanks a lot for the warm welcome. And yeah, I tried to blend in this outstanding panel of speakers. Thanks a lot for Casey. I will pick up where you left. I'm coming more from the strategic space. Spent 5 years in the reinsurance and direct insurance field, mostly in innovation strategy. And as an agile coach, I was running teams up to 20 people, through board projects where we had like special mission. And yeah, we were kind of in one big topic. I hope you can see the slides. We were basically connected to the digital transformation. So every one of you who stays in insurance longer than me might know that the insurance products were a really big topic for a long time. So I just know it like the end of it more or less, but with a big sales infrastructure and lots of very product related issues they are having. And today it's not anymore about only selling a product, but it's more about telling a story. So as Casey just mentioned, there are new products that are very situative. For instance, when you want to buy an insurance and you go down a parachute, you can buy an insurance with your phone at the step of the airplane. And this makes insurance a completely different company. And this transformation is done mostly, as I know, agile, at least in the German market, where I've been the last 5 years. And what I learned in these transformation, that there are basically 3 big steps that need to be overcome. First is onboarding the user as a new decision maker. So we do not have only the board anymore, but we also have the user we need to engage. Second, we have an agile process design. So process design is for us in the project phase really the key to overcome the hurdles, to also knowing how to deal with regulation, knowing how to deal with requirements that might not be obvious from the first moment on. And the last part is about the IT strategy, because most old companies are not really strong on the IT foot, and they need to develop a new IT strategy. And I think this is a great panel also to address this point. So let us go through what do we have? We have first of all, the user. I think this is a really key part, as mentioned before. We need to get an understanding, who are we selling something to? What is the context this person is in? And what are the key points for him to buy or not buy a product? So we basically need to really get close to this person. And what I learned also, especially from the teams getting to know the user, it is a great source of inspiration. So we get a really 360-degree perspective, be it B2B, B2C, also B2G, as of to government. It is very good to get a really close, hands down to the person who buys your product. Also, when you do that while you're creating products and services, it is very easy to create a community. So this is a big asset when you start a product and you already have a community who likes your product and is using it. It will spread a lot easier, and also the whole online marketing goes a lot better at hand than when you start from the desert. Also, it is, for what I learned, it gives a lot of meaningful products and services for the teams. So when we work in product design teams and we realize there is a lot of technicians and there are a lot of business people, they really enjoy to work with the user, because then they realize it's not about technology or it's not about making money. It's really about making a difference in people's lives. So what we realized, it is also really good for the organization to kind of go forward in this whole transformation, to really know what their users need and why their organization exists. Some people might have forgot, I learned. And on the other hand, of course, the user is not the answer to every question. Like there are kind of limitations and requirements connected to him. First, usability, something that goes beyond the ideation, like creating new ideas, is more how do you integrate in your user's life? How does an app has to look like? Is it an app, or is it a web space, or is it still good that a salesperson comes and explains something? So usability is usually a cost driver, but very important to scale in the market. Then the user is lacking of vision. So usually we learned that, especially when it comes to technology, users are not really good at designing new uses of technologies, meaning we need to be aware that they can tell us if they like something or if they don't like something. But sometimes when there are only horses and you come with the car, you need to be persistent, and you need to show your user how it works. And then you need to teach every user how to use a car to go on. So sometimes it's really important to have this in the back of your head. Also, of course, the user is not technology driven. He might not tell you how difficult something is to implement, and also non-business driven. So still these points need to be decided by the board or by the decision makers. And yeah, so it's very interesting to bring the user on top of everything, and also to know his limitations. Now let's get to the second point, requirement-driven process design. It is basically interesting because when I work with Agile teams in a software environment where they learn Agile in their education, it's pretty simple to run them Agile. But when you are in a non-Agile organization and you are responsible to implement Agile, it is very difficult because you do not know how to do it, and nobody is telling you what you need to be aware of. So what we started was just evaluating all the requirements. Like in the beginning, we said, okay, we need to know what kind of requirements do we have. And for instance, when it's for an insurance product, there are a lot of statisticians, there are a lot of salespeople, there is a big law point. There are many people involved who need to work together really closely. I think we had over 12 different departments to coordinate, and we also wanted to reduce the time. Like we had 1.5 years for product implementation, and we wanted to reduce it to 6 months. So we had to be really, really ambitious there. And what we did, we started always with the requirements. We brought everyone together, and we started to go into a sprint planning and trying to optimize every expertise to start there. And when we started to design processes that way, we realized there are 4 key factors we needed to achieve. First, we need to create a fail-safe process. you're not working long with an insurance when you're not fail-safe. That doesn't work. People do not have that mindset to try something out. So this is really important when you pitch a process there, that it must be kind of fail-safe. It should be fun. So the people, and Casey, you mentioned that also before, it might be a little dry here and there. And fun is a very important factor, bringing people together and create a big drive. So we realized also like warm-ups and fireside chats and all of these little gadgets left and right on the process are really a key to keep the performance in the teams. And also working stakeholder focused, meaning you have these 12 departments, you need to really engage them. If you don't take everyone with you, it will be really difficult in the end to launch a product, because each one of them is able to kill you in the end shortly before you launch, and you have to do another round with another stakeholder. And this is my favorite, to be honest, working data driven. So what I learned when I went to D-School is that this is kind of the rule a little bit. So you have technology, you have business, and you have the user, and you want to bring them together. And you do this in build, measure, learn cycles. So you build something, you test it with users, and then you kind of measure how well did you meet. But when I was working with insurance, I learned that it's more like this. You have more legal requirements because nobody wants to be sued. You have lots of strong solo opinions in big organizations. And really, I'm a board member who tell you it has to be that way. And then you try it out, you build a prototype and you test it. And then you come back with the data and you show him, sorry, but the user says no. And they have to accept it then. So this is why I say data-driven is really important. And the last point is stakeholder communication. We really put a lot of thought into stakeholder communication, because working with so many stakeholders, it is enormously important that you keep them informed well and happy to support you, because you will need them in every step on the way. So this is basically the practitioner's view on this triangle. The discussion in the team is still tech business user, but when you go into organization, when you pitch for money, when you want to continue, when you want to be successful, it's more about the other three points. I learned it the hard way, and now it's fun having this on the plate. Coming to the last point, and that's IT strategy, and I think this is also great for ELEKS to consider, because it's something I really seen so many times. This is a quote of a board member who said, after ideation workshop, we had many ideas about blockchain, about AIs, about all different technologies. And he said, these are all great ideas, but we are salesmen, statisticians, and insurance specialists who will build all these products and services. So something, especially, I don't know so much about the US, but in Germany, education still lags behind exactly these key technologies. And when you look in the market, the war on talent is pretty steep. So when you start working with insurance, coming to IT strategy means to just create the environment to be able to work with these new technologies to create new business drivers. So we have a lot of regulatory issues coming along the way, especially when it gets to data protection or protection of privacy. It's not regulated so far what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Or in Germany, it's just everything forbidden, and you need to find out how can you make it work in the long run. And this is addressed by the highest level. So the CEO of some companies I'm working with, they launched regularly articles to address this on a political level, and the discussion there is going really, I hope, faster and faster, and also with COVID-19 might be slowly coming in more a solution mindset than a problem mindset. So this is something really interesting, and there might be many opportunities as soon as the regulatory field comes along. Then the war on talent I mentioned before, and of course tech eligibility. And this is in two sides. Like first, the companies need to create it by themselves, like from the inside, to work in the cloud finally. Like they still have a lot of servers along the way, and they need to go to the cloud. So this is a long process, and I think it will take some years more to really put everything in the cloud. And also the integration to customer. So especially when it comes to online marketing, or how can we engage with people on Facebook. it's very difficult to explain a very old standing person, a lawyer who has been for like 40 years in the company to why we need Facebook now to be successful in the future. So that was kind of really interesting to also look how can we get the solution mindset on there, and where are the opportunity fields in this area. So coming to the end of this, I think for the Agile transformation, and it is since I think 1, 2, 3 to 5 to 10 years, depending on the organization, it is already going, but still on the way. And we still need to finally get the user on board, like for 100%. We need to think about more Agile process design. And I think the requirements are a really good indicator for this. And I think IT strategy, this is where I see the most potential. They are still kind of weak in many areas there. At least as from what I know in Germany, and I think this is a great opportunity for all of us here. Yeah, thanks a lot for your time, and now I'm ready for the questions, and I give back to Andreas.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you for the great presentation, and your slides, they breathe innovation. I really like them. Thank you very much for the presentation. And again, so now is the time to ask questions specifically to Alex. Panel discussion coming right up after that, but now it's Alex's time to answer questions. So again, if you want to ask a question in person, please raise your hand and I will open the mic for you, or post them in the Q&A or in the chat so that we can read them. And while the questions are coming in, let me ask one question of my own. So, I mean, you mentioned already the very well-known problem, of course, when you have multiple decision makers, especially in big corporations, different mindsets, different agendas sometimes. So, what are the practitioner's tips? Can you share maybe a couple tips there for us? How did you find it? What were your secrets to bring that conversation and that decision maker into the flow?
Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's a great question, and we went quite wild on that topic with the last project. So we had like about 40 decision makers in the room, and like really the top tier. So we wanted to engage everyone, and it's also about some personal thing. When you are invited for a presentation in such a high rank, you want to have a personal connection to what you're deciding for. So what we basically did, we were creating a space, like a big room, as like a gallery. So all the results we were working on, they were on the walls, and they were dot voting for their favorites. They were giving us hints on what they think would be important. We gave them post-its so that they could write comments on special things if they wanted us, for instance, to consider another colleague they want to have in a topic. If they have a startup they want us to check on. So we didn't make it a presentation, we made it more a workshop. And we did this like there are big like consultant agencies in there, so they are used to PowerPoint slides, and we were really taking them out of this watching TV on PowerPoint slides and engaging them in this process. They kind of enjoyed that. They really enjoyed it, and the discussion got really heated and valuable. And in the end, this presentation, it was not about our project anymore. It was about the whole transformation. Like they were discussing Agile transformation in these spaces, and we could help them to kind of also create value for their conversation they were having anyway. So that was seen by them as quite a successful part, and it was a lot of fun. It was really fun.
Thank you, Alex. We have a question coming in from Ahmed on the chat, and I'll read it out for the audience. You might be seeing it yourself, Alex. Are you seeing business adoption of these typically technology-driven Agile processes? And Ahmed remarked, I found it challenging to change the business mindset around thinking Agile. Can you maybe also, from the practitioner's view, give your point of view on that one? Alex? Sorry. I think you're muted, Alex. Could you?
Yes. Sorry, I think I lost the connection for the last 5 seconds. So I heard it's difficult to get the business.
Sorry. So the question was, are you seeing business adoption of these typically technology-driven agile processes? And Ahmed remarked that I find it challenging to change the business mindset around thinking agile. I think this is like technology view and business adoption of the agile process.
Yeah, what is interesting, we were working a lot with salespeople, and they are usually the hardest to turn around because they are driven into selling something. And what we were forcing them to, we had the first project phase, and there we weren't creating any prototypes, we weren't selling anything, but we were just running up to 100 user and expert interviews. So we were in a big, we had like a 4,000 data pixels of our users which we analyzed, and we started to create products and services on this. But we didn't want to sell anything. We just wanted to listen. We teach them how to listen, like actively listen, and doing really good deep interviews. And there we created a database with user insights that was basically still driving the whole team. Mm-hmm. And this step is crucial because everybody wants to sell something right from the spot, and especially in insurances which act quite sales driven. So that helped us to say, okay, the first I think 6 weeks only asking questions and understanding the market, like really from the inside out.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. And I already see Layla asking questions. So I think that is an excellent point now to please ask all the panelists to join the talk once more. Please open your microphones and join us. And I would actually give Layla you the opportunity. I think you posted the question, but maybe you can bring it up your own view on this. So Layla, may I ask you to open the discussion maybe?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Alex, and everybody for great presentation. And I'm happy that Germany is going through the same problems as here in companies in the United States. So the question maybe to you, Alex, is that I'm seeing here a lot of times when large companies, they are trying to adopt new technologies or new approaches to do business, and so they are trying really hard to move away from the waterfall methodology and go to Agile and Scrum. However, they are not really adapting short sprints and essentially let's figure out if it works and let's make changes really quick if we need to on the way. But they're setting their sprints like 30-day sprints, essentially calling them sprints, but it's essentially they're following the same sort of waterfall methodology. So how would you advise to approach such teams, going forward?
I think this is the most critical question, and everybody is kind of dealing with it. I think this question is very much located in the leadership, like in the board, like how can they deal with uncertainty, and how can they deal with not knowing when something will be ready, or if they have a release date, but they do not know what exactly is ready there. There will be something, but maybe not the whole product. Also regulatory issues, like Germany, you have the BaFin, in the States you have the Fed. They might have a say when you launch a half-finished product. So kind of nobody wants to get sued there. I think for us right now, the way to go is to say, okay, sometimes a little waterfall-ish might be, we didn't find a solution yet, but it's better to be on the way and to find a solution at some point, hopefully, than not being on the way at all. And so it's more like a working hypothesis, but I haven't found the answer yet. And if you have it, please let me know.
Thanks. Bogdan, maybe I can ask you also to share your view on this, because I know that, agile processes in software are somehow difficult sometimes to transfer into the automotive world, especially when it comes to autonomous driving with, as Alex mentioned already, the big question around security, safety, etc. Maybe I can ask you to give your view.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much for raising it. Maybe Alex would like to help and supplement me, because when I'm speaking to tier one and the car manufacturers themselves, for today, they don't have one answer and one solution to this, because it is well known that agile methodology fits very well for artificial intelligence projects, because you train your models and retrain and adapt it and use in use cases from the real world. And at the same time, automotive, as any other manufacturing, really sticks to the classical waterfall, and especially if it's about electronics production and prototyping of new devices. It's usually you have this B sample of device, C sample, D sample. Is a clear decision gates between, and in automotive is very common V model waterfall. They're trying to put agile inside, but it's not a real agile. It's agile inside waterfall phases, and it's still an open question how to do artificial intelligence agile projects in automotive industry. So maybe Alex has some thoughts around this.
Yeah, so I think one point that was very crucial to us. It was a finding on the way. It was kind of to say we kind of need to stop having defined outputs to a certain time, but more like outcomes. Like I want to have an AI that is doing achieving something as a different formulation than having a really specific output to a certain time in a business term. So it's about how you speak about your goals and how you formulate them. This is the first quick fix we found, and it helped a lot to kind of get down on the level. Attached to it is nobody wants to be sued. Like this legal obligation is always very closely connected to it, and there we are not agile. I think this is, I haven't seen anybody yet. If somebody knows somebody, please share it. But I think this is very difficult to, in general, to deal with legal in an agile way. Yeah.
Thanks. Aleksandr, do you also want to weigh in on that question? I know you have extensive experience also in industries, energy, smart grids, which are also not like known for their agility in development. So what's your view on this one?
So what I can say, I believe that every life critical application isn't exactly suitable for agile process, because in order to create reliable system, you need first of all to create a really good testing coverage in order to be sure that after all it will work as expected and won't harm anyone. But in order to be able to create a good testing coverage, you need to create a complete specification. And this is somewhat contradictory with the agile process. When you just do something and see how market reacts on these and then change it and repeat it. So that's why agile and waterfall both have their areas of application, and we just need to understand where what is good for what. And so that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone who wants to weigh in? Otherwise, I would actually take up a question that was asked earlier, I think during your talk, Layla, but I think it's a great question actually for the panel discussion, because we heard so much now about how technology actually poses new challenges in some way to insurance, like drones with their peculiarities, with the autonomous driving. We also heard ways of tackling that complexity with processes like Alex described. Now, the question that was posed by the audience is actually more about revolutionary technologies that the US insurance, and I would open it to the world insurance industry, actually can utilize, and how it can be applied. I think that's a very open question. So I think you can maybe take one that you like. So rephrasing the question, what do you think is the most revolutionary technology that the insurance companies themselves can utilize to maybe answer to the challenges ahead of them? And what would you as personally give us advice how it can be applied? Maybe Layla, because the question was asked during your presentation, maybe I would like to ask you, what do you think is the most revolutionary technology out there?
Absolutely, sure. It's actually an amazing question. So it's interesting because I feel like there are a couple of things that I want to mention as in response. There are a lot of buzzwords, and people, all of us, we like buzzwords, and we like to be a part of any sort of emerging technology and call ourselves innovators. And so the next sort of list of buzzwords are related to blockchain, AI, and quantum computing. And what I'm seeing is that, certain companies, they're trying to take steps right now to ensure their future, in those digital ecosystems, years from now. And I remember I was listening a couple of years ago, the speech that John Doyle, the CEO of March, gave to, during one of the summits. He said that, everybody right now is talking about blockchain, and they want to ensure that March has the first nod in every blockchain initiative. And that's exactly what they started doing. And actually I will tie this answer to Jorge Aponte a question with regards to Marsh's Bluestream and Victor's ecosystem. So the Marsh developed, insurance business is extremely conservative, and I call it a dinosaur of all industries. It's very person-to-person interaction, and interestingly enough, COVID actually forced all of us to go online and test our digital systems and readiness for working online. And so those who develop technological solutions ahead of time, of course they are ahead of the game. What I want to mention is that Marsh, for example, they addressed a very overlooked need of the certificates of insurance. And so the Bluestream that Marsh developed right now is able to issue certificates of insurance for all of their insureds, and it's all based on blockchain. And such a simple task that used to be extremely tedious is actually leading them to success, because brokers are now understanding that instead of going through like 50 clicks in order to get certificates of insurance and waiting a couple of days, they can actually get it all through the through their blockchain platform. Another thing that I want to mention is that there are a lot of companies that are trying to create these marketplaces that I think ultimately is a great idea. However, a lot of times, they're lacking user experience, and it's just not really user friendly when you're using it. And so I think technologies that right now are the most vital for insurance company is anything related to user experience, to focus on actually insureds and brokers who are using those platforms. And of course, I do think because my speech was about Taobao, I do think that artificial intelligence is the future. And I do think that in order to understand our customers the best, we need to invest in artificial intelligence and try to understand internal processes, make them more efficient, and understand those that are using actually or choosing to go to our platforms, to our websites, and why are they coming there. And so Victor, for example, Victor Insurance, used to known as Schinner, they've created, they have a bunch of companies, and just yesterday I was shown the platform that connects all of these little platforms that they have, focusing on different insurance lines, on different products, across the globe. And I think that is truly where, everybody should be going. It's creation or joining the ecosystem, so that you are not left out, going forward.
Thank you very much.
Andreas, if I may add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have seen probably a lot of technologies in your 40 years of experience, right? So I would love your view on this.
Well, it's fascinating to me. Layla hit on one thing. Yes, I'm almost a dinosaur, Layla. I think is what you said, but no, in my industry, the insurance industry, which I've been a part for most of my life, it is very slow and ponderous to change. And yet, we have a saying in the States that necessity is the mother of invention. Well, when COVID-19 hit in the US, all of a sudden, offices were shut down. Insurance agencies and brokerages, insurance companies were shut down. We've heard for so many years about the ability of people to work from home, and yet there was no real impetus to get people to work from home. COVID-19 strikes, and now all of a sudden you have this very slow moving industry that finds itself being very agile and having to move people off site and facilitate them to connect and get their work done. And so it's fascinating me that when the insurance industry does need to move rapidly, it can adapt. But if we leave it up to a natural process, I think it's going to be a little slower to adapt. So something such as COVID-19, which is a terrible thing, we all agree, but has been a great benefit, I think, long-term to the industry. The biggest challenge now to a number of the industry on the insurance industry side is going to be, what are they going to do with those large buildings that they now own when they find that people can work from home and don't need to come into the office very frequently?
Thank you, Casey. Thank you for the great view. Alex, I think you also have the kind of innovator's view on that one. May I ask you to share your vision? What's your idea of the most revolutionary technology that will change the insurance industry?
Yeah, it's interesting because when we started to consult insurances, we were looking for disruptors. And we were looking everywhere, and we couldn't find the real disruption of insurance business. So there is a certain type of especially in the B2B area of entrepreneur. They are not really interested to buy a complex insurance policy in the internet. They still want to have somebody who they can talk to and who are they connected to. So this disruption, as we have seen it in other industries, does not apply for the insurance industry. At least in Germany, the numbers are still, in that regard, pretty low, actually. So what I believe is that it will be more from the inside out. So like existing insurances, they will learn to adopt more and more. I think big data is right now a very hot topic. And AI, of course, then as soon as big data is sorted out, they will go more and more to the AI area. But what I think could be also really big potential for society as a whole, when it gets more into the predictive field, like helping to predict problems and maybe also counteract before something is actually happening. And if we get insurance business into this field, I think people will also see how valuable they are already for us, and then maybe even more understand.
If I may add to this,
sure.
I wanted to bring up the ZhongAn insurance. It's the first online insurance created again, back in China. And actually Alibaba is one of the stakeholders. There were 3 organizations that created ZhongAn. And what is interesting about it, that's everything, all transactions are happening online, and they're selling a lot of hidden insurance products on everything they are offering. But also the most important part is that they're utilizing transfer learning and deep learning to understand everybody, all the users who are coming to ZhongAn, and usually all of the same users that are participating in ZhongAn marketplace, they are participating in all of the Alibaba, platforms and products. And they're also, think about other 2 affiliates that also created this ZhongAn. They are sharing their information. So truly, ZhongAn is backed by a very powerful AI algorithm, and I don't know of anything like that anywhere else on the globe. that has that big of a processing power. So I think, the future is definitely here, and a lot of companies are truly learning from Chinese experience. Yes, we have privacy issues, but hey, I mean, they've invested a bunch of money into their AI and it works.
Great. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are already not only at the end of the webinar, we're actually over time. So I would like to take the time to again thank all the panelists very much for their contribution. It was a delightful evening. I think these were amazing presentations. I learned a lot. I think we all learned a lot. Thank you again. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the technical team once more. Solomia, Ivan, who are in the back doing all the technology side of this and keeping the lights on, so to speak. So thank you very much for doing all the infrastructure there and preparing all the materials. That was really awesome. And I also want to thank Dominic and Olya, the good angels in the back, for putting together the program. Thank you very much. And this is not the end of the series. This is actually only the start. So I said it in the beginning, I want to say it again. On July 16th, we will have the next installment of this series. And actually, this will be all on a panel discussion. So bring all the questions you always wanted to ask to insurance experts. Bring them again on July 16th, and you can post them there. And if you want to stay informed, give us a like, give us a follow on LinkedIn or on Facebook, so you will keep informed. And of course, please also feel free to reach out to the presenters with all the questions, all the input you want to have from the presenters. Here, the emails are shared on the screen, so do a screenshot, add them on LinkedIn, reach out to them by email. I think that will be a great opportunity to learn more. And of course, last but not least, the material from today's webinar will be shared with you after the presentation concludes. We will share the slides, we will share the recording, and we will also share a short survey. So if I can ask for anything, please give us some feedback on how you like tonight's webinar, what you like, what we can do better, so that we can prepare an even better webinar for you next time. So thank you all for joining. Thank you to the panelists once more. Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you for the questions, and have a very great evening, and see you again on July 16th.
Thank you.